Welcome to the Man to Man Show. And this show is designed, again, to help men deal with the issues that we face with and, just never talk about. So we get all bottled up, our finances, our relationships, sex, workplace, and all these kinds of things. Right. And next thing you know, again, tell them we end up blowing up, right?
We end up blowing up because it's tough trying to carry all that stress. And people don't realize that when you have a lot of stress on your shoulders, it manifests itself and it's going to show up and come out at some point somehow. So rather than allowing the stress and the trials that people deal with, that we, especially as men, because the world seems to feel like the man is supposed to handle and carry all of the troubles of life. And it's difficult trying to do it by yourself. So with the Man to Man Show, we're trying to do something that gives you an opportunity to share some of the things you're dealing with, to ask questions about some of the things that you want to understand, maybe.
And we thank you so much for joining us here today. Again, we started this project a couple years ago, right. And it all came, Tim and I both, we work in media and video and work together, for quite a while. And, I would be talking to Tim about something. He'd always have a good answer for me, some good response. And I was like, dang, this dude. So then we started talking even more. And it turns out that Tim himself is a life coach and relationship counselor. I didn't know that for several years. And you've worked with a number of couples at your church. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife and I have done premarital counseling, for several years, 10 plus years within our church and for couples. And, when things come up with relationships and people are trying to understand how to just figure it out, how to improve and enhance what they may already have, we've been there. God has allowed us to kind of be a vessel for them to be able to get some answers to their questions and figure things out. Well, just as Vince said, we just have worked together for several years and we just have casual conversations. And it wasn't something that I just put out there that was part of my background, because sometimes when people know that you do certain things or have certain types of positions that you are a part of, it changes the dynamics of the relationship. So things were working the way that they were, and it just evolved into this.
Yeah, and I thank you, man, because I would tell you folks, you're not alone, fellas especially. I will confess, I have to deal with a lot of issues, and you think a lot of times that you're the only person that have to that you're facing these things like this. Quick disclaimer I want to make that this is not professional advice that we're trying to provide here tonight. We're trying to create a forum so guys can talk and get input about what it is that you're dealing with, and very, very specifically know that you're not alone in the things that you're dealing with. Fellas think they're alone all the time, don't we?
They do. And there's the impression that if you have feelings and emotions that you're soft and sensitive, and sometimes that doesn't give you a good look in the eyes of society. But at the same time, no matter how big, strong, macho you are, you still have feelings, and your feelings get hurt sometimes. And you just have things that you just can't handle by yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to have to talk to someone.
That's right.
From time to time.
That's right. We want this to be a safe place to discuss. We want you to hold off the judgments as much as possible. Hopefully we can help each other and enjoy this all at the same time. We ask you can request you chat in your questions, your comments right here on the Facebook page. You can email us as well at help@mantomanshow. We've had some folks, who earlier, over these past years, and again, that's why I think the first time we did some segments was like in 2011, 2012 when we were doing this, and went back recently to our YouTube channel, had not paid attention to it, and there were like literally thousands of views and lots of questions that came from people who didn't even know it was there. Say, hey Tim, we got to do something with this, man. Yeah,
absolutely. So that prompted us to get back on and just having conversations with people, even aside from what we may have seen online, as we encounter different people that we've worked with and just have a sidebar conversation that just may have randomly come up, and you get the feedback from them that says, hey man, you know what, that's a great idea, we need that. Mm-hmm. So it was inspiring for us to kind of get back on the saddle and really kind of delve back into this so that we can provide a little more feedback and guidance. And like Vince said, we aren't here trying to provide professional advice, but it's more so being able to share perspective. Because sometimes we just need to be able to see things a little bit differently.
A little bit differently, and then again to know that you're not the only person that's going going through this. You know. So Tim, I'm gonna jump right in, and I want to give a shout out to Donnie. He wrote us earlier, but Donnie, I got to get to some of the questions that we had. People have been emailing us over the years, literally, about some of these issues. And Tim, this first one, it's a doozy. That this is from, we're just gonna say Mr. X. And if you want to leave your name, that's fine. And if you don't want me to tell your name, that's fine. But this is he didn't. This is Mr. X. Mr. X says he's secretly dating somebody at work, and she's pressuring him to tell everybody that hey, we're a couple, you know.
Right.
He says that she's marriage material, but I don't want people in my business like that there. What should he do? Secretly dating somebody at work, she pressuring him, and she want everybody to know.
Right. Wow. So, Mr. X, you know, a situation like that, it is, I won't even say tricky. I mean, put yourself in her shoes. If you say she's marriage material, you can't expect to run around the office and not tell everyone about your wife, because she definitely won't be having that as a wife. So if she's marriage material and you feel that strongly about her, you know, what is the hang up? Why do you feel like it needs to be a secret so that no one knows? Because if you put yourself in her shoes and you're the one that wants people to know and she doesn't want to tell anyone, how do you think that makes you feel? What questions begin to go through your head? Are you wondering, is there someone else that's a secret lover that she has on the job or somewhere else that maybe...
Did you say secret lover?
Secret lover.
Oh boy, that's a song.
What's that lady's name?
Not Patti LaBelle, somebody like that.
Somebody, yeah. I think it's Atlantic Star.
Atlantic Star, that's
what
right.
it is.
Good job.
So you don't want to be the one. You don't want to be on that side of the coin. So you have to understand that when you talk about loving someone, caring about someone, and again, I go back to that statement about her being marriage material. So if she's marriage material, why not? Why be ashamed? Why hide it? You know, why do you need to hide it? And I really can't even give you anything other than that. The fact that you wouldn't want to be kept in the dark. If you love her and care about her, you would really have some serious questions as to her loyalty to you, to understand why does it need to be a secret.
Well, you know, maybe on the flip side too, Mr. X, you know, you don't know what it's like, what kind of office he's working in, you know, and you know how people can get to what they call hating. Right. You know, she may be like, she marriage material, she's a beautiful woman and everything, and Mr. X is dating her. Right. All of a sudden now, maybe he gets no more overtime. Right. Maybe all of a sudden, you know, things just start changing at the job. That's a dynamic that plays a part too.
That is, and it very well could be an environment where they don't really appreciate fraternization, so to speak. You know, are you a supervisor and she's a subordinate along those lines? So that could be a potential problem that comes up or something that's presented. But based on what you said, it was just that you don't want people in your business like that. So I would just encourage and urge that you really think about what you want. How do you really feel about her? And is she worth you sharing with the world what you have that's so special to you? Maybe someone out there in the audience tonight, you've gone through something like that. You're dating someone at work. I mean, how did you handle that? Was it a secret at first and then you let everyone know, or are you still secret love there at the job? We want to know, you know, right here online. We can take your responses and your chats in. I want to thank some folks who are watching. Like I say, sorry about that in the beginning, but Deborah Campbell, Sonny Martin, my good buddy Sonny. How you doing, Sonny? Mona's here. She says Pastor Tim, Marvin, and Auntie are watching the show, along with B. Bewley and my good friend Latasha, and my wife Tracy. She's on the line watching. So, hey, Marvin just joined us. Marvin Caples. How you doing, brother Caples? Got it going on. All right. So, all right, Tim, that was the first one. And again, if you have something that you can add to help Mr. X out, please chat it in here tonight. Second question, Tim, that came from help@mantomanshow.com. My wife calls me a mama's boy and wants me to choose. This is from Sam. My wife calls me a mama's boy, and wants me to choose. How do I handle this? Man. Ooh, a mama's boy.
Mama's boy.
And I know being,
I'm a mama's boy. What you talking about?
and I know a lot of times just from experience, and I can only imagine, you know, sometimes hearing that phrase, it for the man, it isn't necessarily something that he wants to be told that he is, especially by his wife or someone that's special to him, because it doesn't seem like much, but sometimes it seems like it's belittling or it's almost demeaning or diminishing his manhood in some sense or some instances. So that's one of those things where, aside from just how it might make you feel or the mindset that some people have about that phrase, you have to really understand why she's feeling that way. You know, think about it, take it to heart. And if you're looking at marriage or being married, you have to really decide, you know, what's going to be the priority. And I know people say family first, you know, it's always got to be about family. But once you decide to commit to marriage to your spouse has to come first, hands down. And of course, you don't just turn your back on your mother. You don't just walk away. You don't just cut her off and not help her anymore. But at the same time, there are some relationships between a father and a son that are codependent, where they almost can't function without one another, especially if the mother is single. So sometimes you see these cases where the mother almost treats the son like it's her man or her husband.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful about that and really evaluate what's going on in that relationship with you and your mother, and understand and ask your wife, why is it affecting her the way that it is, so that maybe there's some things she may need to share with you to kind of help bring it to light, to realize, because sometimes we do things, Vince, that we aren't even aware how deeply engaged we are in certain types of behavior. So sometimes, for example, you know, if someone calls, just say it could be 11 o'clock at night, and say his mom called him and said she need him to come, you know, come turn the sink off downstairs.
Hey, mama needs your help, man. Mama needs some help.
But at the same time, and I won't even say the sink, because we don't want the water to run over and flood the house, because that's a whole nother problem. But, you know, it's something simple that could go on. And there's situations that I'm aware of where the mom may call for something that is just really not that important at the end of the day. And he'll jump up at 11 o'clock at night. Now, if your wife jumped up at 11 o'clock to say she's going to help anybody, it's going to be some questions.
There's a problem.
Yeah,
she ain't going nowhere.
So you just,
I'm putting on my clothes too. Let's go. That's right.
And see, you know what's going on, but then at the same time, really put in perspective, again, the impact that it has on the other person. How would that make you feel? Empathize and put yourself in the other person's shoes to really think about what's happening. How does this really potentially impact the person that I say I love?
You know, that's a hard one though, because at the same time, so the wife, you know, as she gets older, she wants her son to be there for her,
right?
Not realizing that's the same relationship that her husband has with his mom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked about this before with people and how they deal with in-laws, because that can be, you know, which this is, in-laws and things like that. But, I mean, it's each scenario is different, but there is a lot of mama's boys out here because mama took care of us, Tim.
Yeah. I know, and
the sink is bad. The water's running, Tim. I got to go.
I know, and you know, and when Daddy want, Mama will. And, you know, in most cases, because, you know, Mama's going to be the one that wants to slip him that 20 when Dad said, hey, you know what,
this is true.
You don't get it this week. So, you know, and I get that, you know, but it still comes down to the balance. And like you said, there's different scenarios. Things can be different for different people, different relationships. So you can't really put a, you know, one size it's not a one size fits all, because everyone is different. People are going to respond differently to the situations that they encounter, you know, but you definitely need to be aware of how much it bothers her, because at some point in time, you know, she may deal with it for a while, and it may come a time where she feels like it's too much to handle, because she feels like she's competing with another woman for the love of a man.
Right.
And you don't want to get to that point. And Mama, you know, Mama took care of you growing up, but at the same time, there comes a time where you have to leave home and it has to be about your wife and your family.
Good stuff, Tim. Well, I hope that helped Sam. And if you have some thoughts about that, again, we encourage, because I mean, Tim is the expert. I'm trying to figure this life out here, and this is true. But perhaps you went through this scenario, and how did you handle it? I mean, where your wife, said, "Hey, you got to now, having to choose, though, Tim. That's." Yeah. I mean, is that the right approach? Hey, you got to choose either her or me.
Right. And so I don't agree with ultimatum,
Okay.
Because sometimes it comes out that way in frustration, especially if it's been going on for an extended period of time.
Okay.
So at that point, there has to be some balance. It has to be a level of fairness, some patience, some understanding. And just like anything else, when there is something that's broken and needs to be fixed,
okay,
when there's hurt or pain, it takes time to heal. So you have to understand that, she may be hurting. There could be something from the past that has gone on. There are things that we don't know about the situation. So if she's been involved with someone, that was a so-called mama's boy, and mama turned out to be Bertha or Betty.
Okay. What's that mean, Tim? You talking in code? What that mean?
Secret lover thing, like we talked about before.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of changes the dynamic. So there's just, like we said, it's not a one size fits all. So understanding what's going on and really delving into what she's dealing with and how she's feeling. But for her, it isn't fair to try to make it a cold turkey situation. There has to be some balance, some understanding, and finding a common ground where they can both say, you know what, this works for us. Mm-hmm. This works for us. This is fair. Because he's not going to cut his mother off, nor should he be expected to. No. He should still be able to help and support his mother, in reasonable terms. Mm-hmm. And mom also has to understand that he's married now. So his wife has to come first.
That's exactly what Mona Carroll, she said. She chatted in, leave and cleave.
Leave and cleave.
Leave and cleave. That's what she said, man. Willie Brown chimed in. He said, hey, decisions must be made. So, you know who that is. Yep. I'd like to say we got Elgin T. How you doing, Elgin T? She's loving the show. Lisa Range is watching. I'd like to say hi to Jen Hammond, and Dina Comer, a classmate of mine from back in the day. Thank you all for joining us again. This is Man to Man Show. Tim Brown, Vince Bailey. Tim is a life coach and relationship coach and has helped many folks, as you can tell. And we want to help even more, which is why we're doing this program here, this Man to Man Show live here on Facebook. We thank you all so much. Forgive us again. We're trying to do a lot because that's how we do it. And we're going to keep on doing it. And we're going to get on to the next question, Tim. All right. This next one, let's see. This next one came from Frankie. Okay. And he wrote us back. See, we're a little late. Frankie wrote us back in 2017. Frankie thought the grass was greener on the other side and wants to know, I guess he walked out the door, how can he get his wife back? He thought the grass was greener on the other side. How can I get my baby back?
Wow. Woo. A lot of work, I know that.
Especially if you went to the other side.
Yeah, you went to the other side. 'Cause no one wants to feel like they're in second place. And if you've been committed and you decided that you saw something better or what you thought was better, that's going to be a long road to hoe, as they've said. So one thing I would encourage people to understand, men, women alike, is that grass goes through seasons. And sometimes the grass is supposed to be brown. And if we can't understand those seasons that we're in and realize that a relationship is not going to always be beautiful, it won't always be exciting and just fun all of the time. There's going to be times where, it's just like a kid. You get a new toy for Christmas, you're super excited. 2 weeks later, it's sitting in the corner collecting dust, but then maybe 6 months later, you get revitalized and want to ride the bike again. And not that a relationship should be so casual or thought of that way that you just put it in a corner because you're tired of it. But at the same time, as we grow and mature, our feelings change. You know, we do things a little differently. We see things a little differently. But as far as trying to get her back, you know, that's something that, in all honesty, that we can't tell you exactly what you're going to need to do to get her back, because there's a lot that could have gone on in that situation. But I can tell you that I'm sure she's explained to you what she's feeling. She's shared the hurt that she has felt and experienced from this. So you're going to have to work really hard. Really hard to get her back, especially if you've been in a relationship for a long time. You know, the longer you've been together, the more painful something like that is going to hurt. So just like that movie, it's a thin line between love and hate. And I think the more deeply you love someone, the more strongly you're going to hate them when you've been disappointed or betrayed.
You're right. We were talking about this prior, and it seems that even, you know, those that have been together, you know, 20 plus years, there's a epidemic of folks saying, you know, hey, and a lot of times, I mean, should she take him back?
I mean, and that's one of those situations, Vince, where you have to know why. Everybody has a track record. We have a history of certain types of behavior. You know, is he that kind of guy that he's apologized for doing things several times, but yet he goes back to doing it? You know, I'm all for love. I'm all for people making it work. You know, but at the end of the day, there's certain people that we were destined to be with, I believe. You know, there's, as people say, that soulmate. But should she take him back? You know, that's one of those things that they have to figure out together. He has to decide, is that what he really wants? Because if he went chasing green grass when it was fall and winter, you know, maybe that isn't what he really needs to be dealing with right now, is that type of relationship. So does he want to get tied back down or feel like he's tied down in a long-term committed relationship? Because if he's having challenges handling the monotony, or the monogamy is the word I'm using, I meant to use the monogamy, then
kind of go hand in hand a little bit sometimes. Not a synonym, but can be, you know, same kind of track. Can be.
But, you know, I just don't want I wouldn't want the women to feel like when you say monotony, it kind of sounds like something that's boring and dull in my mind. So that's why I wanted to clarify that.
Well, I'll tell you, our good friend Henry, how you doing? Henry Golat, he chimed in. It's never greener on the other side. It's a matter of realizing that God gives us what and who he knows we need. I think that's some good advice right there, huh?
It is.
But sometimes we're hard-headed. That's what happens.
And that's what happens.
And then you think it's something over there.
I think you know. And see, and I realize and I determine that when it looks like the grass is green in the winter and it's supposed to be brown, that means it's probably weeds.
Whoa.
So, you know, nobody really likes weeds. So,
that's a good analogy, man.
Yeah, something to think about.
About. Lisa says, amen, Tim. You got some women out there shouting. I mean, but it's just a phenomenon, you know. It's amazing. You know, I had no problem, 55 years old, you know, and so there are people, you know, been married number of years. And for whatever reason, you know, they are deciding, you know, no longer. And I don't know if it's because someone jumped the fence, you know, grass is greener or what, but it seems to me when you make a commitment for that long, you know, what did Johnny Taylor say too? That's what he said. But, you know, he sang a song about it, but it ain't about that. I mean, but you've been with a person, especially when you've invested and you know this person and they know you. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. She knows me, I know her. And, you know, you can finish each other's sentences and thoughts and things, or you know what they're thinking and when to stay away. Don't even have to say it. But he wants to get back. So, I mean, you know, how can he get her back? Like you say, work hard. Work hard means what? What's some ideas?
He's working hard. He's got to come clean about what's going on. I'm sure she's going to want to really understand and know that he knows what he's done, to understand why. But I mean, start with counseling. Go get some counseling. Get some professional advice, you know, or some trusted advisor that you have or know, so that you both can come to terms with what's happening. Because before you get back together, there's going to have to be some healing that takes place. she's going to have to forgive you and want to get back with you, because when you think about it, to know that the person you love and have committed yourself to has stepped out on you, you got to realize and understand that when she looks at you now, she's probably thinking that you're thinking about the person that was supposedly the greener grass. So there's just so many little things that come with that. But I mean, get some counseling to see. And you're going to have to show her over time that this is a change that you're willing to commit to, and that you're going to do whatever it takes so that she understands and can feel comfortable with the change that you're prepared to make, so that you can get back together, and that she can feel comfortable enough to trust you, or trust that you won't do what you have done in the past. So it's a challenging scenario, and it just depends on how open or willing is she. You know, does she even want to get back together?
Yeah.
At this point is a big question.
You know, well, I want to say Mona says that your analogy and answers are grounded. Praying that this platform be blessed and prosperous. Thank you also. We all need help. That's right, Mona. Thank you so much. And Mona just said she has to want to be back with him.
Right. She has to want to.
You know, it's funny. It's not funny, but we had another. I mean, I got a whole sheet here of questions that came over the past couple years to us. And this one, the wife wants to leave after 25 years. He says now that the kids are gone, that made, I guess that was a big part of their life. And you know, you work together, you raise the kids, you send them to school, you train them up, everything, and then they get grown and go off on their own, and then it's y'all two, and you look at each other like,
what do you want to do?
Yeah.
It's almost like that deer in the headlights moment where you just kind of stuck. You know, no kids, no screaming, no running to the soccer games, the football games anymore. You know, where for years you were going your separate ways because you may have had multiple kids.
Just busy,
just grinding,
things,
work, cooking, cleaning, and watching the kids. So for a lot of couples, when they don't take the time to make sure that they have connected themselves to one another the way that they should, because just like we talked about the leave and cleave to your wife or your spouse has to be more important than the kids. And a lot of people have a hard time with that.
Oh man, that's one that we get twisted a lot.
It's tough.
Yeah.
So especially if there are children before the marriage, it amplifies the level of difficulty to make that commitment. But when you think about it, put into perspective that the kids are going to be gone at some point. The kids won't be there forever. And there are things that your spouse can do that your kids never can or should do for you. So it has to be about maintaining the connection with your spouse. And within that, you bring the kids into that love that you're sharing with one another. Because if you don't stay grounded within the relationship in your marriage with your spouse, you're going to have a hard time once the kids get older, because you lose that connection and you kind of forget how to love each other. You forget how to just enjoy each other, how to have a good time with one another. And that will make it difficult, you know, and after 25 years. And
ooh, that's a long time.
That's a long time. And you think for some people, man, that's like half my life.
Yeah.
And then it's just all gone up in smoke.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And just think about it. And a lot of times, if someone's been married that long and someone decides to leave at that point, you haven't been paying enough attention along the way, because at 25 years, they were probably gone at 15, you know, or 20. You just ignored the signs, and you just got so caught up in life just doing stuff and not loving each other the way that you should.
You hear that a lot about, you know, I stuck in there for the kids. And sometimes when they say that, it's a adverse, abusive relationship. You know, they'll say, well, why did you stay with him? You know, he was doing this, that, and the other. And they say, well, I stayed there for the kids. So, you know, that having children and being a parent, I mean, that is that is a very, very important aspect in all of our lives. And she comes and says, well, now the kid's gone. I'm out too.
I'm out. Whew. Devastating. I mean, I feel bad just thinking about that for someone that has happened to, because, you know, it's just so much going on out there in the world right now. Just the world has changed.
Yeah.
It has changed.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone wants to be married these days, and there's just so many new variables and dynamics in society that make it, in my opinion, more difficult to be married, or, you know, especially for single people.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so much going on. So if you have someone, you're already married, please, 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 I beg you, I implore you, take the time to understand each other, because, and I still do this with my wife. We've been together for, this will be 21 years that we've been together. And
Congratulations.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good work.
So I still will ask my wife sometimes, you know, I check in with her to see how she feels, to make sure I'm doing things the way I need to be doing it, because I don't assume that she loves me today the same way that she did when we first met, or the same way that she did last year. And that's the mistake that a lot of people make. Sometimes we get too comfortable with what's going on, and we lose sight of those little things and really trying to understand and stay connected. So just take the time, you know, fall back in love. I mean, do date nights. You hear do date nights, but date nights they're cool. But if you just go out and eat and have dinner, and you still aren't really communicating, talking to each other, having fun, just laughing. I mean, wrestling, tickling each other, doing something just to laugh and just have a good time. You still kind of missing the mark.
Good advice. Good advice, Tim. And thank you for folks that are watching us online. Again, we want to know your thoughts. You can write right here on Facebook, or if you want to be a little more discreet, we do have an email at help@mantomanshow.com. Tim, this segues right into this next one. You're talking about, after 25 years, making sure my wife, this is Mr. X again, or Mr. Y. He don't want his name known. But he says, my wife isn't comfortable with me wanting to be more creative in bed. What should I do? He ready to, do a little something, a little something different. But she's not comfortable. How do you deal with that, man?
Wow.
Huh?
So trying to make her more comfortable. I mean, you definitely, whenever someone has a hang up about something, they don't agree with something, or they hate something, most times it's fear or a lack of understanding. So, for something like that, it's a matter of trying to understand what it is that makes her uncomfortable about what you're trying to do. Now, I don't know what you're trying to do. Creative is a pretty broad.
Come on, man. Come on. He ain't trying to get too freaky.
We don't know, though.
Girl, I need you to go get a bucket of ice and a can of oil. I don't know. I don't know either. You're right. Right.
Yeah. So that's a very loaded question. Without details in premarital counseling and counseling sessions, things like that will come up, but it's a private, intimate discussion where people are able to actually, talk about it and really address what they're dealing with. But from the surface level of this, without any details and knowing what you are wanting her to do, I mean,
some people. Hey, we're all adults here. If you've been doing the same, missionary position or something like that, and then he come home and get, some toys or something, or maybe, hey, you just could go to the other way too. Your wife could come home one day and things are buzzing and beeping and clicking in the room, so let's take it from that side too. Because there are a number of women, who are online with us too. I mean, so let's say the partner. This is going to still help you, Mr. X. I'm not trying to get away from what you asked, but if your spouse is for some reason, I guess you hit a certain age too, where things are just different. It ain't the same as it was. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I mean, it just your body changes, different things get you excited. She may touch, ooh, that's my spot. It's your shoulder. What?
When did that
behind
happen?
my ear, really, the neck, I'm not saying nothing, Tracy, I'm not, but the neck, all these different, things change. So what do you do?
Well, I mean,
What do you do?
I get, first of all, I will say that, my wife don't need to bring anything that's buzzing that's for me.
Honey, I'm old.
Right? Yeah, nah, no buzzers. But it is, you have to, really, again, like we talked about the date nights and things like that. I mean, those are conversations, intimate conversations that you have to be able to, you have to learn how to have fun with one another, learn how to break down the barriers, because a lot of married couples, they can be married for 10, 15 years and still have barriers in their communication where they're afraid to say some things to their spouse because they're afraid of being judged, as people will say. They're afraid of being looked at differently, and we aren't always honest enough in the beginning about who we are, about the things we like and the things we may want. And that's one of the beauties of the premarital counseling. I know when we do it, because we force people to be open and honest about the things that they're feeling, because you just can't go into it like that. You're talking about a lifelong commitment.
Okay.
So you have to be open and honest. So as far as getting, her or the spouse to be creative, I mean, it's just going to come down to the level of creativity. And I mean, again, with not knowing what's going on, they have to figure out what it is that's going to make them feel excited again, that they both can agree with. It could be some small changes, it can be some big changes, but like I said, honey, no buzzers for me.
Well, one of our viewers, Mona, she chatted in, what's missing in the question is porn involved. I don't know if it's porn. It wasn't that specific, but definitely says, that things, I guess, something different. He wants to be more creative. So that didn't necessarily mean porn,
Right. Yeah, and again, we don't know, because there's so much that people do. But I would, I wouldn't make that a part of it.
Okay.
I wouldn't, because that's one of those things that.
Is there anything wrong with that? If that's what you like?
I personally would steer clear of it, because I feel like.
Of being creative or porn? You mean porn?
Yeah, the porn.
Oh, the porn.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Definitely, being creative is cool.
Okay.
Just make sure everybody's comfortable with what the creative process is. What they're doing.
Because it gets free. It gets. I mean, I'm amazed at some of the things that you see. With putting on this rubber suit and taking all your air and hanging for. I see it in the movies.
Okay.
And then I turn the channel. I don't watch. But it is. I mean, people can get rather adventurous.
Yeah. I mean, some of it's downright scary. You see, folks with the mask and the straps with the nails hanging out the straps.
Bring out the gimp.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. People going to the hospital because they have to get stuff removed, surgically. So that's why I don't know. But that, as far as the porn, she brought that up. I would suggest steering clear, because it's almost like bringing another person into the relationship, because just like a spouse would be uncomfortable with their husband or wife being involved with someone else, porn almost creates the same type of environment where that porn that they're watching can become more attractive to them than their actual spouse. So that really becomes a problem. So that's why, they have to be careful about what creative means to them.
I like that. Good answer. Hopefully that helped Mr. X and hopefully helped some of you. And again, if you have some thoughts about that, please, again, we want to create this nice, safe forum, to talk about the adult issues, and relationships and things that can help others. And because we're all going through it, no matter what. We're sitting up here, but we have to deal with situations ourselves.
Right.
And, like this red eye. I'm not saying that Tracy hit me in the eye, but if you go in is this IRA? Yes, it is. You know, I got to, you know, get that hook. But we're here to help each other.
Right.
That's what it's all about. If you have any questions, again, that you want answered, you can email us at help@mantomanshow.com or chat your questions in. I want to say hi to Nichelle Protho. Thank you for joining us, Nichelle. And Eric Davis, hello, how are you? Glad to have you on board. Again, this is the Man to Man Show. And we're planning, Tim, again, we've been doing this for a while, just, you know, tape segments and things, but we're planning to do this every Tuesday night to start at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock. And so, you know, if we get your questions like here in and we can address them when they come up. I want to make sure, Tim, that I address one that came to us earlier today from a friend of mine, Donnie, who wrote us. And let me pull that up right here. Yes, we switching and we doing it all live right here because that's how we do. But let me pull it up. Give me 1 second. There it is. So Donnie, a friend, he says he has a question about if a person is arrested for a felony, why should he pay for that felony for the rest of his life? And he gets up for parole and all of his rights. He gets through with the parole. All of his rights are still not given back to him. It's not a violent offense. Why should he have to pay thousands of dollars? I mean, okay. So I'm gonna handle this one a little bit. You know, the justice system. Hey, sometimes it's definitely not fair. But what makes a difference, and we know this now, is voting and getting active into the political process. And Donnie, you know as well as I do, SCLC, NAACP, Black Voters Matter, all these organizations, and not necessarily just black organizations, but those organizations were very instrumental in, say, like Florida, where it was just passed and now in effect where felons are able to vote again. That came to fruition because of you know, people getting involved in the political process and folks going to them polls and voting. You know, these organizations can mount a campaign. You know, and I'm right there with you too. Let's you know, we can mount a campaign and get it known out there. You know what is really taking place, because it is that system. Once they get you in, and it's just, you know, and you're just paying and probation. You just paying and getting your rights back. But if we keep it on the forefront, I'm so glad you asked that question, Donnie, that you know, we can, you know, all think about, because hey, look, everybody's not an angel. I know I'm not. And you got folks in your family who've, you know, perhaps something happened, you know, they were incarcerated for a minute, and you know they're a good person. They do deserve to be able to vote. And the other things that are taken away, what are some of the other things they take away from you? You know, when you, we'll do some research on that. But it makes it difficult to get some jobs because then you get discriminated against from employers. That's right. So, but the solution is to get involved, and that's what, you know, we just celebrated the King holiday, and folks don't realize, you know, we think of Dr. King as this person, you know, this, you know, just this saint or something, you know, this, but no, he was a real man and was a young man. What people don't realize, they were all young. Dr. King, Jesse Jackson, all them folks, they was like, you know, young 20s, you know, on the forefront, and look at what happened. So it may be too late for us, Donnie, to receive, you know, some respite from these laws that are not right. But if we continue to fight, our next generation won't have to face the same thing, okay? So we appreciate you again. You know, and I think too, like you mentioned, the voting, Vince, you know, and a lot of people mobilize and we promote voting on the federal level, on the large scale elections that go on for president, things like that. But it's the local elections that tend to have the most immediate impact on our lives. And those are the ones that we don't get involved in. So when someone gets locked up for 25, 30 years, 9 times out of 10, it isn't a federal system that's locking them up. It's something that has taken place on the local level, and we don't get involved in that enough. We kind of overlook the local politics that really have the most direct impact on our lives. So I would say, you know, think about that, look at that, talk about it, and get involved with what's going on locally so that you can begin to help see some of the changes. And then I also think that when we have certain people
that will get out on the forefront. I'm a firm believer that, you know, you talk about division of labor. There are different people that are going to be more built or better built to do certain jobs. So you're going to have some people that will go out there and protest and march with the signs. You're going to have some people that will go out there and lay out in the grass in front of the courthouse for 3 days at a time.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably not the role I would play, but I'm not going to knock them for doing that. You know, I'm going to help do a media campaign, get some videos done to help tell the story. But everybody has a part to play, and we just have to figure out what our part is. How do we contribute to making a change and to not allow the frustration of what we're seeing, the things that we know are injustices that people deal with, and it isn't just black people, it's all
right.
people. You
That's
know,
right.
a lot of people are dealing with injustices, but what role can we play where we are to try to make a difference? And it's easy to talk about it. And I was just talking to my brother earlier tonight before we started filming, and he was talking about writing a book, and he started writing, and you know, his mind just kind of froze up a little bit. And it's always easy to see a vision of something grand, but then when you put pen to paper, it isn't as easy to get it done as it seems.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just wanted to throw that in there. So,
Yeah. We appreciate Eric. Eric wrote in, true, we can't wait on politicians to come up with all the answers. Again, there are organizations that are out here. And I know, again, my man Donnie, you know about that. And Tim, on that note, you know, we were getting set up here today. You know, you had mentioned the effect that a lot of people are feeling right now because of this government shutdown that's taking place. And I mean, 2 weeks without 2 paychecks. I mean, that's you know, I mean, you know, finance, yeah, you know, you would like to think that, you know, you could survive. You know, they say, oh, have savings for 6 months. But I think they said like 50% of folks, you know, have less than, you know, $2,000 saved, you know. So this shutdown that take place, I mean, this is really showing us we got to do better, right?
Right, we do. And I think it's, you know, and as bad as I feel for the people that are impacted, and, you know, and it's easy to look at just the federal workers that have been furloughed and not being paid, but there's a huge ripple effect. I mean, I saw a headline where it said that in the District of Columbia, and this was a week and a half ago, that they had stopped issuing marriage licenses because of the shutdown.
Oh my gosh.
But you know, marriage licenses.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a wake-up call for all of us to realize that those of you that have entrepreneurial minds, those of you that have the ability to go out and make things happen in your life for your family, to not be afraid, because no matter where you work or who you work for, no matter how solid the organization may appear to be, you just never know when something can change and you find yourself in a bad place trying to figure out where your next meal is going to come from. So just, if you can help someone now, help them. But for the sake of your family, the sake of your future, don't put all of your eggs in one basket like that in your job, thinking that, oh, it's this big, huge company, you know, that they've been around for 100 years. That doesn't matter because the government isn't going anywhere. But this little shutdown here can drastically change a lot of people's lives. And
it is changing a lot of people's lives. Yeah, it is changing a lot of people's lives. So thoughts and prayers, you know, people sometimes say, hey, don't be sending me no thoughts and prayers. But seriously, you know, they do help, thoughts and prayers, you know, to all those across the country that are being affected, because it's not only the employees, then you got, you know, little diners where everybody ate lunch at. I just saw today that the Marriott Hotel in group there in Washington, they said they got something like 50 hotels or some crazy number in Washington, and their numbers are like way down as a result of this. So yeah, you have to be prepared. And that's, you're talking to all of us, you know, all of us. We got to be ready. Again, this is the Man to Man Show. I'm Vince Bailey. This is Tim Brown, and what we're trying to do is create again a program, a forum where we could talk about issues that men typically don't, you know, talk talk about it, deal with. And as a result, I mean, you hear about us falling out and having heart attacks and stressed out and high blood pressure and all that. And I think if we can get those feelings out, get those thoughts out, talk to someone, whether it's live or off-site, because again, we can, talk to you without being live on Facebook. And we're going to develop additional ways as we move forward. We hope to be that place for you, man to man. Tim, we only got about 8 minutes. We're going to keep this to an hour tonight. I've got just a big doozy question. You ready for it?
Let's go.
I don't think you're ready for this one. Carol wrote us. Carol says, "Why do men cheat all the time?" Not some of the time. Carol says, "Why do men cheat all the time?" Brother Tim.
Carol.
Take it away.
Carol,
Take it away, Tim.
She put a big broad stroke on that all the time.
All the time.
So, Carol, I am sorry that you have experienced so much pain and hurt and so much broken trust, because to feel like men cheat all the time, it kind of indicates that it's been difficult, finding someone to really trust. And that's just a, strong possibility. But I don't feel like men cheat all the time. In fact, I know they don't, because I know several that are faithful men to their wives and their spouses. So there's a perception that people have, and society likes to label men as dogs. And granted, there are a lot of them out there that are more than willing to cheat when given the opportunity. If there's any small crack that they see and feel like they won't be found out, they may try it. But we have to realize that it's not just the men, it's the women that will do that just as men will. But I would pose an even bigger question to you, Carol, something to think about, is that when you think about men cheating, don't think so much or only about men cheating. I want you to have in your mind being unfaithful. So unfaithful goes beyond just cheating. So you think about cheating as, someone having an affair, outside engagement with someone that they aren't in a relationship with. But you have to think about being unfaithful. So have you been unfaithful in your relationship to someone? And it doesn't always mean sex. Have you been faithful with your time? Have you been faithful with your commitment to the relationship? So when, as a couple, we aren't faithful to one another, to the relationship, by allowing someone else to dictate how we spend our time together, that's being unfaithful. So you may not necessarily cheat, or the woman may not be cheating, but if she's being unfaithful to the relationship in some form or fashion, for the man, it's almost as bad as cheating. So we need to stop looking and focusing on the man as far as cheating, because people don't really believe it. Women don't, but a man may cheat and have an affair with a woman, and that literally means nothing to him, that woman. And it's a difficult concept for a lot of women to fathom, but it doesn't take away the pain or the hurt that the woman feels when he's done that. But it doesn't mean anything. So the pain that you feel from him cheating, as you say, he feels the same pain when he doesn't feel that you've been faithful to him to make him feel like he's the man in your life, that he's, able to take care of the family, or just those things that build him up, that makes him want to stay faithful, that makes him want to do more for you. And, women would be surprised the lengths that a man will go for them when he feels like she's lifting him up and building him up.
Well, that's why men cheat all the time. No, men do not cheat all the time.
They don't.
Men do not cheat all the time. And there are a lot of good men. And, it's in this, corporate, in this world today, and I don't want to be, throughout the old fashioned, but there was, I think, a reason why men were made to be the quote unquote, it used to be just the breadwinner, and be the one that's, out there, and not that, I'm saying women need to stay home and things like that, but when you open up the door for everybody's going every which way, and y'all don't get back together till 8 o'clock at night every night, there's the opportunity for all types of relationships to take part, to take place, and like you said, you know, Carol has to realize that you really got to put your time and energy into him, and it needs to come back vice versa, right?
And I think I have to say this part too, because it, you know, since the cheating involves the sexual encounters with someone other than who they committed to, is that, you know, when you think about the sexual encounters that the man and the woman have, husband and wife, you know, there tends to be a level of expectation on both sides, you know, as far as what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. So women, when they feel like men are cheating all the time, they have to also stop and think, am I doing what I need to do to make him not want to cheat? Because sometimes, you know, you have to be honest about it. You know, the women control those situations. The man can't just come home and say, yeah, you know, babe, I want to make love tonight. If she says no, it's no. He can't just take it. So, you know, are you making it it's not a safe place, but are you making yourself available enough to him that he feels like, hey, you know what? She loves me, she's committed to me, and that, you know what? I'm so tired, I don't even want to go mess with somebody else. And that, there's a balance to that. And I'm not saying you all have to every night. I'm not saying that. But I am saying is that women also have to be cognizant of the fact that men will have their desires. They're going to make their ask, their request. And how often are you telling him no? Because at some point he begins to feel rejected. And it's like, you know what am I getting out of this?
You know, and that can go both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, people change over time, and you know, your bodies change sometimes. Right. You know, there's a time when the man's, you know, has his peak, and then it drops, you know, for some type of physical, you know, reason. Same thing with women, you know, sometimes they don't want to do anything, and then all of a sudden, so somehow it has to be a lot of understanding. A lot of understanding. Because again, there are no cut and dry answers to any of these things, which is, again, the reason why we wanted to talk about this with you today. Tim, I think we're going to just roll on a little bit longer today because folks are trying to like hey, my brother's on now. Hey, Dominic. Raul's here with us. Lisa, Cheryl, thank you for joining us. Michael, TJ Williams in Little Rock, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you all. And we want to hear some of your thoughts on some of these things that we're talking about, because while Tim is the, you know, relationship coach and life guru, you know, and has helped me and helped so many. I mean, Tim, forgive me, he don't know everything. But
which was going to be my next point.
But he knows a heck of a lot. But then you may know some things that can help others who are going through these same issues that we're talking about here. And that's why we want to do this. We also encourage you, like our page. If you're here, like the page on Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel where there are other videos as well where we, address situations and things. You talked about something just now, Tim, you were saying, no means no. And, there's a lot of things about that right now in the current events. You got this situation with R. Kelly. You had the situations, with the Me Too movement and things like that. And, the first thing that struck me about, let's say, the Me Too movement, that these women were being forced, I had to think back. Did I ever do something like that? And again, definitely not an angel. Never have a professor want to put that out there. But I don't think I ever. And if don't chime in if I I was 12. But I'm just saying I don't think I ever did something like that. And I feel sorry, for those that had to go through, such a traumatic situation.
Yeah, and that's I definitely didn't do something like that because I was afraid of the outcome because I know, you know, when it was all said and done, they go tell someone and then I'm going to jail. So
Right.
even as a youngster, I knew not to do that. You know,
Right.
I was afraid to get caught up in something like that. So there was always a level of respect, you know, for what a woman's feelings were about any kind of involvement that we may have had.
Right, right. We were looking, you know, that was it toxic masculinity, and Tim said, "No, we need to wait on that. I need to check that." But you know, Gillette came out with this whole campaign on how to be, I guess, a better man. Don't be catcalling girls, you
Right.
know, as they walk by. Hey, baby, you know, la 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 la, all those kinds of things. So it's you know, it's in the air these days of how a man should act. But do we want to? Are we going to follow the rules?
Right.
On that note, Tim, we have another. This is from Sammy too. This says Sammy, a female. My husband flirts when he thinks I don't see him. How can I address it without seeming confrontational?
I mean, there's only one way, and that's to let him know that, hey, you know what, this bothers me. It makes me feel uncomfortable, and explain to him why, you know, because there are legitimate reasons why it can make you feel uncomfortable. And if he loves you, then he would respect you enough to honor your wishes, you know, and especially if he's flirting, because it's one thing to look, because you know, everybody's human, everyone has eyes, and they're going to see people, and you know, there are attractive people in the world. But when you talk about flirting, that goes to another level. Now you're opening a door for someone to potentially come in and cause a problem, you know, with flirting. Some people will do it genuinely and honestly, but at the same time, that's something that I stay away from, because I don't want to get caught up, because, you know, you just don't know what can come of a situation when you engage with someone. You think it's flirting, and for them, it's an opportunity that they've been waiting on. So now you just created this situation where now you're either going to, you know, someone is going to be cheating or lying about something that's going on, you know. So it really is just a matter of explaining, you know, the impact that it has on you, how much it bothers you, how it makes you feel, and making the request that he not do that. Now, it becomes more difficult when someone has been together. If you've been married 5-10 years and they've been flirting the entire time,
Oh yeah,
it's kind of tough to turn around and say, you know what, I want you to stop being who you've been since I've known you.
yeah.
It's difficult. It almost isn't fair, because that's what you agreed to when you married that person. That was a big flirt.
And sometimes too, you know, it can be mistaken as flirting. You know,
Right.
you know, I'll speak. You know, give my own. I'm joking and playing all the time. You know, kind of person can be.
Right.
And sometimes that over the years, you know, I've been married 30 years, 30 going on 31. Thank God. And but sometimes it gets mistaken as,
Right.
you know, but that was not the intent
Right.
at all. And sometimes it can be difficult, you know, when you're out here and you're working in various arenas, and sometimes you got to like sing and dance a little bit to
Right.
get,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and so what is a man to do in situations like that, you know?
I mean, that type of situation, if it's almost like politicking, or, you know, as they say, trying to flirt your way to the top.
Well, not for, yeah, I think it gets and I'm not just speaking of myself, but it can be mistaken
Okay.
as
Right,
that
right.
you're flirting
Well, yeah,
someone.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
And I get that, because
Because there's no goal in the end of
Right,
this. You know,
right,
we're not
right.
trying to get to the, you know, to the room. You ain't trying to do that at all. You know,
Right.
but that is a nice hairdo you have today, and is the check ready? You know what I'm saying?
trying to make the transition
You
real
know what I'm
smooth.
saying? So,
Yeah.
but I know fellas go through that. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
they do,
especially
they
in
do.
a woman-dominated, you know, the corporate world is like that.
Right. I mean, and it's one of those, it comes down to values, especially if they feel like they have to do it.
Yeah.
Are they willing to
No.
compromise themselves for the sake of getting something? But I get what you're saying about being mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I know I
Keep
have
it
I have
professional.
a tendency to smile a lot. You know, I'm pretty chipper around people, so I want people to be happy around me because I have a hard time being around negative folks. You know, that's just difficult for me, and it could potentially be taken the wrong way. But I know I have no bad intentions with what I'm doing. And, you know, I dare not talk about what someone's hair looks like. And so I just stay away from that altogether. So no one, they may see me smiling, but they won't be able to say that I made any comment to them.
So what should Sammy, what should she do? What should she tell her husband? She's upset because she says he's flirting. So, okay, we're gonna say then that he is actually flirting.
Well,
Well, he got to go.
back to what you said though. She needs to be sure that's she probably knows. She probably knows Sammy's flirting. But I would have her to just confirm though.
Okay.
Just let Sammy know what he's doing that's bothering her, so Sammy can defend himself if he isn't actually flirting.
Right.
He may not be flirting. So if Sammy is saying, you know, wow, those are some nice shoes to women, then you know.
He may like shoes, though. I mean,
Yeah,
hey,
he may like shoes,
I like
but-
shoes. I be looking at shoes, man. I mean, you know, I don't know. As I get older, I look at people's feet. I be like, ooh, you need some lotion.
But see,
and hey, men or women, man, you need to put some oil, some Vaseline. That's the secret, fellas. Some Vaseline,
right.
and that make your feet look
and
better.
just don't walk through any dust.
Yeah.
With the Vaseline on your ankle. But I mean, you know, she would know. She would have to make that judgment. But again, let him know what is happening that's bothering her, so she can get some clarification, and maybe there's some adjustments he can make, because it could be the way he's saying it, the way he's doing what he's doing, that makes her feel uncomfortable. Because if she has something she's dealing with.
Silly folks upstairs.
she may be having some self-esteem things going on right now.
Yeah.
That he may be aware of or may not be aware of, and that's one
Yeah.
of those barriers that we talked about earlier that people have in relationships, where people are uncomfortable with certain aspects of themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't share that.
Yeah.
And things that you may do may cause a problem for your spouse, but you don't realize because they haven't shared, or you have a problem with something and you haven't shared it. So you need to make sure that you're honest enough and be open enough to share those feelings. And you can't be afraid to you have to be naked and unashamed, especially in marriage. And if you're dating and you want to go toward marriage, you still have to do it then, because you're basically preparing for a lifetime together. So you can't go into it pretending to be something that you aren't. You got to be willing to be open and share who you really are and what you're feeling.
Hey, good. Appreciate that a bunch, Tim. Listen, we have really covered a lot of ground here tonight, and you know, we could keep going, but we're gonna put a peg in it for tonight.
Yeah.
But for those of you that, for whatever reason, you had some thoughts, you had some questions, but you didn't get a chance to, you know, chime it in. And let me say hello, give a shout out to Shani, one of my old students, voiceover students. How you doing, Shani? Good to see you. Kathy, thank you for joining us. Brother Griggs, how are you, man? Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing. Raul and everybody. Lisa, how are you, Lisa? Nene, thank you, my old neighbor. I said she's a grown woman now. She's no longer Nene. It's Renee. Hey, Renee, how are you? Thank you for joining us, Michael and Cyril. We really appreciate you all and your support here tonight with Man to Man. Again, you know, we really want to help our men, and you know, at the same time, we're helping our women.
Right.
We did a radio show on WAOK a couple years back, and the phone lines was just off the hook with women calling in as well, because they want to know, fellas, and they want to talk, you know.
Right.
And what do we do? I'm just as guilty. I will go up in there and just clam up and shut up, and and every time, Tim, every time I get into one of those shut up and clam up and get up, you know, nothing happens. But then as soon as you walk out the house, or as soon as you start talking to your spouse, or as soon as you start really talking, not just, you know, surface, but once you get that out the way, the world just opens up and,
Right.
and things, you know. So, fellas, you're not alone. We're here for you. It's Man to Man, Tim Brown. I'm Vince Bailey. Tim, what we want to do before we say goodnight tonight?
Well, we want to, again, ask that you share it with your friends, like us on Facebook, and send questions in. If you have questions or concerns, things that we didn't get to talk about tonight, some things that we can maybe bring up next week. And again, what we're doing is about perspective. You know, again, and I openly admit that I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. And the things that I share, you know, just can hopefully give you a different way of looking at things so that you don't necessarily feel hopeless and helpless in the situations that you're dealing with. And it just kind of reshapes your thinking a little bit so that you can get out of the rut that you may be in. And again, realize that you're not alone and that we're all here to help each other, because I'm always trying to learn and grow from people, you know, and just situations to be better for myself, for my family as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
Well, see why, you know, again, I didn't know. I was riding with him in the car for 2-3 years, and every time I say something, he has something good to say. I say, man, we need to do something with this. And guess what? Man to Man was born. I appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir.
So does everybody else out there. Listen, have yourself a good night tonight, and we'll be back again live. We're going to be back next week?
We'll be back next week.
Next week, 7 o'clock, unless we decide to do it even sooner, huh?
Yeah,
we
maybe.
we may be back at 9 o'clock tonight. I don't know. So one more thing. Hopefully we got to your questions, your answers. Send them in, and whatever you do, stay blessed, and just keep on doing what you're doing. All right?